Good morning, everyone. This is a great honor today to unveil something that is extremely special to our community. We're going to tell the story about how it came together and in just a minute, but first we want to get everyone inside. So we will do a ceremonial cutting of the ribbon. And I think, Jane, I'll ask you to join me. Here's how we do it. You take the top.
There we go.
I'll take the bottom.
Yay.
And we'll come over here. And on 3, 2, 1, go down. Get it? Yeah!
In fact, I get to say it first. Welcome to the Cambridge SportsPlex. There's just a few of us will speak. We'll try not to keep you here very long, but we do want to kind of give you a little rundown of how we got here. I see most of you have been many of the familiar and positive faces that have helped put this together, including many of you that are the contributors. I do want to give a thank you, although Jane McMahon's going to have more to say about that later, to at least a few very obvious groups, starting with the taxpayers of the city of Fairfield. $3 million was the asking, and it was an overwhelming positive vote. It put us off not only on a good foot in terms of having $3 million to work towards what was then a $10 million goal, but it created a really positive atmosphere in the community for the fundraising and all the things that were to follow. So I'll always feel good that I lived in a city where the people overwhelmingly would respond to the needs of the community as a whole. I also certainly want to thank Cambridge. I still remember the day in which I was talking to the board out there and the dignitaries, and they had lots of insightful questions, and the moment came when I had to ask the question of or present the idea of what we were there to do, and they asked me what that number was, and I remember Ron Haynes and I were standing there, and I had to say, well, we were kind of hoping for $1 million and put your name on a building. And then nobody fainted. I didn't pass out. And when we left, I told Ron, I said, they might just give it to us. And when they did, we knew that was a big moment because it really propelled the rest of the project, knowing we were off to a great start. I also want to certainly thank the McMahon family, who I know quietly don't do a lot of the promoting of themselves on this, but they were tremendous contributors. And we've had that discussion of, I suppose it comes from the church, but of providing your time and your treasure and your talents, and the McMahon family gave us all three. So without that, we would have gone nowhere. I certainly also want to thank just all the other contributors generally that in small ways or large ways moved the project forward, because there were many ups and downs on this, and if people had given up on us, we could have been in trouble at a lot of points here. The task force as a whole, I certainly want to thank all those of us who worked together literally for 5 years. And if we had not had the kind of quality people to work with, there were lots of breaking points here where the project would have really been in trouble. So all of you that are on the task force, and you have my thanks, and I hope the community has appreciation for the work that you've done on this as well. Now, I was asked to give a little bit of a background how this happened. Many of you know, some of you don't. 5 years ago, I came to a meeting. Derek Wolfcold, I'd had discussions with him, and he said, well, we're going to have a group of people sit down together. And I came to the meeting with thinking, well, how's this going to go? Are we going to have people that are just there kind of worried about what they wanted for their own parochial reasons? I'm sure they were thinking I was there maybe just because I was interested in basketball. And we kind of all sat down and the discussion began, and it occurred to me in the middle of the meeting, this is something we can do. We had people who really did want to know what the community needed. We really did come to a consensus of what we thought needed to be done. Starting with the pool. I don't know if some of you may or may not remember the pool. It had already been decided, I read it in the paper, that there'd be no major repairs. And it's 45 years old. I think that means the pool's going to close. We got to do something here. So we went and visited the pool. I have to tell you, I've never seen so many cracks in the cement, Bondo, duct tape. That's not the joke. We thought, oh my gosh, this is never going to last, and of course it didn't. Unfortunately, we didn't even get through the 2 more years. So the pool was obvious. We knew what to do. The gym was a little different because the community had sort of settled into status quo and had missed what had happened. And that's where sort of the historian comes in. When you're old enough and you've been doing this long enough, it makes you the historian. And it hadn't occurred, I think, to the people in the community that we had not built a new gym in 50 years in this community. 50 years. And you've heard me say this before. And we added things like youth sports, girls sports, new sports. And we had just reached a complete breaking point. And we had to act, knowing we'd have to sell lots of people in the community who were really not involved in any of that anymore, weren't aware, didn't know, some that didn't care. But it was imperative that we sort of get that message, and we decided then we were going to stick together on this. We knew what we needed, and we were going to make it one project, and we were going to do it. And we were not going to pick at each other in terms of, no, let's just do that, and let's just do this. We got the needs defined, and we decided to move forward. And I began my relationship with Jane on that. I had hardly known Jane, and for the next 3 or 4 years, there was just meeting after meeting, and of course, people like Ken Daly, who I had not met before that day, and I realized, these people and several others who were there, but we can do this because we all had the same vision of this, and that's important for some of you younger people. Remember that. Get a clear vision, associate with the right people, and there's lots of things that you can do that other people are going to tell you can't. And obviously we did run into resistance, but we always were able to overcome. Moving forward, it was a long period of meetings. They had several things had to be done. And Jane's going to talk more about that in terms of just the nature of planning this type of facility was really a massive effort. The fundraising was a massive effort. I tell the story that as soon as the city voted yes, I got a call from a very elderly gentleman, and he wanted to give me a check for $5,000, and I went to his home, and I was so happy to take the check, and he was very generous in doing so. And on the way home, I thought to myself, well, this is great. I only need to do this 5,000 times. What? Or, I started doing the math, and I was like, no, wait a minute. Just start thinking the math of trying to raise $6 or $7 million. And it all sort of came over me, boy, we're really going to have generous people, but we're going now. And of course, in the end, it worked out. The pool itself, I think most of you surely have been there, and I thought it was a magnificent pool. It's beautiful. People loved it. And when the people come in, they're just staring at the pool and all the amenities. As you come in here, I think you have to be impressed. It's a beautiful building. It's functional. It does exactly what we had talked about with the running walking track, the all-purpose courts, the availability that's set up so the schools can use this. It does everything that we'd hoped it to do, as the pool did. But the real driving force, in my case, was never the building. When you late at night, and at least obviously we had a lot of kind of sleepless nights, those of us on the committee. And what was I envisioning? And it really wasn't the building. It was what this was going to do. Of course, in my case, it was the children. I kept envisioning children coming into the building and playing the game or running on the track or having somewhere to go after school. And that meant a lot to me. And I had that passion. People know I do. So it was sincere. But it also means there's going to be people who are going to live a healthier life. This is going to be here for 50 years. How many people are going to live a healthier life because of the generosity of the people who helped fund this building? How many people are going to live longer? They're going to live a longer life and a better life because of the building. That's really the kind of thing that I've seen all along and mattered to me. I really do envision families, maybe some of my own family, who will choose to live here, that this might be the difference. I don't know how many, but it's going to be some. And they may live here for that reason. So the legacy of this whole project, I think, is really built into things that we can't really see. We can only hope for and sense and know that, and have some real sense of accomplishment as we move forward, because this is going to be here a lot longer than myself, and certainly probably everybody on the committee. So that's really where we're at on that. And I want to end with one thing. I was a social science teacher, taught government, so I'm going to end my public speaking with one little lesson in government, I guess. People would talk about, it would be what really is a good citizen. That's always a kind of a good question. So I try to break it down to something simple. And to me, it was as simple as this. You have some people who have litter in their hands and they throw it on the ground. You have another group of people who would never litter. They would not throw it down, but they're not picking up somebody else's litter. And then you have a third group of people who would never litter, and they always pick up a little bit of somebody else's. And the question is, what kind of community would you want to live in? And the answer was always obvious. Didn't have to say anything more. The people here, the people who've had to do with this, we know what category you were in. And I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Have you all had a chance to just look around and soak all of this in? This is an amazing facility. It's beautiful. It's something that is deserving within our community and was put together with so much thoughtfulness and care. And I think, as Dan expressed, this is going to be a very special place for our community for decades and decades to come. It's also a great symbol of one of the great strengths of our community, which is the strength of doing things in partnership, bringing all of the elements together within our community that we need to accomplish something as big as this, something as grand as this, and something as important as this. You know, Dan Breen really brings his own legacy as a championship coach to everything that we did here. And Dan, thank you for lending that to this effort, because when his voice speaks to our community and tells us how important it is for us to accomplish this at this point in time, then we know it's something that we owe to everything you've accomplished, Dan. So thank you very much. But back in 2011, when Dan referenced that realization that we were going to be closing permanently the Obie Nelson pool that had served our community for 45 years, it was a little bit of a scary moment, how we were going to do that. I've been watching the price of pools go up over the last decade, and I hadn't looked at the price of outdoor pools for some time, but when we started researching it, it was definitely something that was going to be a huge challenge to our community. Now, there was no question that families and parents and people who know how important that pool has been over the generations here, that we would take our civic duty and replace that pool, but how we were going to do it, we didn't know. So we started with this task force. And the task force got together and had their initial meetings to discuss this. I think everyone understood that there was going to be a need for some private money to be raised for this. So this group got together and started to discuss this. And I want to first introduce you to the task force members before we talk a little bit about their story, and to really thank them. The task force members appointed at the time were Jane McMahon, Tom McMahon, Dan Breen, Jeff Courtwright, Jerry Long, Fred McElwee, Ken Daly, Scott Tim, Tammy Dunbar, Ron Haynes, Jody Kerr, Joe Carr, Sarah Cochran, Dave Eastburn, Mark Myers, Kent Whitney, and Councilman Michael Halley. And if they're all here, would they please stand? As Dan mentioned, they spent countless hundreds and hundreds of hours putting all of this together, but their first act was to really think through what they were going to present to the City Council about how we were going to replace our pool. And when they came back to us at the end of 2011, they came back not only with a vision for an outdoor pool, but for this beautiful facility as well. And I think we were all kind of taken aback at that point to realize that, wow, not only are we recognizing that we have a duty to replace this important infrastructure in an outdoor pool, but they're recommending that we also piggyback that with a gymnasium facility that we hadn't built within our community in 50 years. So I think at that point we said, fine, continue your work, come up with a plan for us, and they really did a lot of that work on their own, conceiving how the dollars would be raised, where they would come from, went through a couple of different iterations of a budget. We started with hiring a firm to design the outdoor pool, getting that underway. We were understanding where we were at that point. But then this whole process unfolded where the generosity of the community came forward. We were very fortunate to receive a $1 million grant from the state of Iowa from the Community Attractions and Tourism CAT program. The remarkable thing about receiving that grant was we asked for, I believe, $1.1 million from the state, hoping desperately that we would receive somewhere in the neighborhood of $700,000 or $800,000. And when they came back and said they were giving us $1 million, very close to our full award, we were overwhelmed. And the reason that I believe we received that full $1 million from the state of Iowa is because they had the same confidence and faith in our community that we would accomplish this and that it would mean so much to our whole community. Also, during that period of time, our Park and Recreation Board of Directors, I wanted to recognize them now as well. We're a very big part of helping guide this process. Dr. Carrie Cochran, Terry Delker, Janan Tuhill, Adam Pleggy, and Rhonda Whitney. If they would stand, please. So we have come together again in a very successful public-private partnership to accomplish something on behalf of our whole community, something that we will enjoy for many, many years to come. And also, as Dan reflected, we can't wait for the basketball tournaments and the indoor soccer, the batting cages, volleyball, everything to be utilized in this great facility by all of our children. And we also feel that we've put in place a very important piece of our economic development infrastructure. I believe that Cambridge Investment Resources, our largest employer within the community and one of the most important businesses within our community, understands that their business model is to recruit people from the outside who've never potentially lived in a community as small and intimate as Fairfield. But when we can demonstrate to them that we have big world facilities, I think it really does help them in their job and really lends to the quality of life for all of our employers and all of our businesses. So we are very proud of being able to be a partner with Cambridge and with all of the other businesses that supported this effort. This becomes a real jewel in Fairfield's crown, something I think we can all be proud of, and something that, as Dan mentioned, will contribute to the longevity and health of our whole community. So at this time, I'd like to invite our City Administrator, Mike Harmon, who is going to give us a little bit of an overview of the construction process and recognize and identify some of those that helped us with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. The construction process was quite an event. We had a very wet June and May that prohibited the foundation from what we're standing on right now from going down, which really delayed us by about a month and a half. We also had the challenge, we had the pool going on at the very same time. And when you bring two sets of contractors working on the very same footprint, sometimes that can cause some issues. But we had a true group of professionals working on this facility, and I'm proud to say that many of the dollars are staying local, from the steel erection, Schaus Voorhees, if you're here, thank you, to the landscaping. Many of the dollars on this project were completed by local contractors, which is great to see. Once we had the facility completed and the flooring was down, one of the neat things about being a city administrator in your hometown is that you know and have a better understanding of the history. 24 years ago, I was one of the students getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to make the drive-in for 6 a.m. basketball practice. No offense to Mr. Breen, trying to stay awake in the economics class in the afternoon and trying to do it all again the next week. But, so that helps me understand and appreciate the importance of this facility. I think the days of 6 a.m. basketball practice due to a shortage of gym space, they're gone. This truly is a tremendous facility and a game changer for the city of Fairfield. I would like to thank the contractors that were part of this project, and a big thanks to Carl A. Nelson, Chris Smith, Jordan Hutchinson, and especially Mike Hall, our project superintendent. Mike did a fantastic job making sure that this facility stayed on budget and on time for our opening today. So let's give them a big round of applause. At this time, I'd like to invite Jane up to the podium.
Enthusiasm. I am still smiling to say that we have this facility built, and it's done. It was something that means a lot to me personally. I coached swimming for many years here in the indoor pool, and selfishly wanted a facility like this so that if I had a larger swim meet, I had a place for, to utilize a holding area so that our families could, hang out. Can I tilt that, or is that, you can hear me fine, right? Thank you. So I just wanted to, first of all, thank you to Dan and Ed and Mike for completing part of that story. Of course, some of those things were things that I thought I was going to tell you about, but I'm going to bypass all of that. I have a couple of quotes that I wanted to read to you. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. This is an Eleanor Roosevelt quote, and I think that it personifies where we stand today. Ed, you mentioned about that. You have to have a vision. You have to have a dream. Dan, you also mentioned that without, our town is built around that. We're a small community. You have to have people in your community who are interested in the future, and we had that. But my favorite, one of my favorite quotes is an Albert Einstein quote, and I think it has more to do with the task force in this arena. We spent I calculated over 100 meetings. So that's not hours, that's meetings. So so this is Albert Einstein. It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer. Anyway, so I was originally going to say something about, so the task force, we did start back in the day with the closing of the pool, and we noticed there was a small group of us. It was Kent Whitney, Jody Kerr, and myself, and we were working with Derek to look at the problem of the pool, and many people were coming to us and talking about a gymnasium. And I already mentioned that I personally was interested in that for selfish reasons, but for the pool's sake. But So we started, that was the theme. So we kept with that. We kept looking. The task force did come back to, we were tasked to develop a realistic plan for improving Fairfield's aquatic and recreation facility. Our end result of that task force originally was that we were going to develop a multi-generational, family-oriented recreation complex. And it was to include the outdoor pool and an indoor rec center. And City Council was kind of shocked because we had that extra, piece attached. The timeline from there, that was back in 2011. So this was a 5-year project. We immediately went to a second task force, and that included getting the architects. So Burbach was our pool architect, and we originally were back at O.B. Nelson because that was the thought. We had the outdoor pool there. We thought, well, let's just stay there. We'll put the facility there. Through several iterations, the pool ended up being about 15, 16. That was like the 16th plan. What you see out there was about the 16th plan. We also had a meeting with an engineering firm came in and told us about being a project manager. Once we started talking about the gym, we on the task force realized that we could not do, this is so awesome. Anybody want to run? We realized that we didn't know enough about gymnasiums. We didn't know, because what we didn't understand is also, let me step back just really fast, is that we were looking at a two-tiered gymnasium so that you would have like the courts and the running track up above. And we thought that was a good idea. Well, then you start budgeting that out, and that's not the smartest way to spend your dollars. So we recognized right away that we didn't know how to do any of this on the inside. So we hired a project manager, which included Carl A. Nelson. And it was a unanimous vote. They had helped with the hospital. They were going to help with the school. It was a no-brainer for us. And Chris Smith really helped. He became our lead project manager and really helped. We really appreciate all the help that Chris gave us, because he kept the equilibrium on ideas and design, as well as dollars, what your budget was. Within a month, we interviewed several architects, and we had already been around the state of Iowa and fell in love with a particular gymnasium, which was Kirkwood College. And, right off the get-go, if you say Kirkwood College, if you say a college, you think, okay, that's way outside our budget. But what you see here today has a lot of the features that we liked. And one of them is when you are at the lobby area, they can, if somebody's working that front desk, they can see out into the entire, see the courts. They can see what's going on. They'll be able to see all the little rugrats running around, And we were, in particular, once we came to this location, we felt like there had to be, the word we kept using was synergy for this entire facility. So instead of having the gym have locker rooms and the pool have locker rooms, we wanted to share. We wanted to share those resources. And therein lies step into Newman Munson. And they were the ones that developed Kirkwood College. They've done lots of projects for University of Iowa. They're beautiful facilities if ever you get a chance. I'm kind of addicted now to going to different facilities and see what they have. But guys, I've been around to a lot of pools, through sports and everything. This is a nice facility. Yes, and so, Dave Zaradnik is here from Newman Munson. And Dave really was, he was the lead, for us in the beginning. And is Bob or any of the other architects? Yeah, so they're not here right now. So, and Chris Smith from Carl A. Nelson also. One of the things that I did, I wanted to thank them. I want to thank the state of Iowa for, it's called the Iowa Economic Development Authority, and that's the CAT grant that we received. The CAT is the Community Attractions and Tourism Grant. And there's a pool of money that the state of Iowa has. And there's a board that dictates where that money goes for different projects for lots of communities. While we were there, there were communities that were just trying to get veteran memorials built. There were communities that were trying to do additional parks, whether it was setting up like ponds and having a nice walkway and so forth. So that group of folks is tasked with, and they're just folks like us that are on this board, but they're responsible from a state level of doling out those dollars. So they are ultra, if any of you have ever babysat like an infant, you feel like you have to do everything right, and that's what these folks did. So they take us through the ringer. I mean, it is a grueling process to try to get those funds. We originally asked for 1.8, and it went back down to 1.2. And as Ed said, we thought we'd be happy with just half of that. And when they granted us $1 million. I mean, I had tears. They were coming and meeting in the middle and dripping, down the middle. So I do want to recognize that board, that group of people, and the work that they do, because without things like that in the state of Iowa, stuff like this doesn't get built. So I appreciate, and I don't believe that we have anybody here from, or do we, from the CAT organization. So anyway, I just wanted you all to recognize that our state dollars also, came into this. Cambridge is, I mean, we can't say enough there, without the Cambridge dollars, we couldn't have got the CAT grant. Part of the CAT process, it had to be a public-private partnership. When we were fundraising and so forth, I mean, it's a requirement. So once they saw that we had some community members that were really committed to the project, offering the dollars, I think that was the strength of what you were speaking to. That they saw that and they granted us the money. My final in parting, Tom McMahon could not be here. Tom was an integral part of this project. He came on in the second task force, and Tom became not only our, part of the fundraising, but he was our chairman. And his business acumen and calm demeanor really guided us through this project. So I would like to, thank him for all of the work that he did. So. In parting, my last comment, or actually Tom's last statement is, and again, this is from Tom McMahon, I am really proud of this community for stepping forward and building something for all generations. This was truly a public-private partnership that showed the will of our community. Many individuals and organizations gave more money than they expected to give, but it took that level of commitment for us to accomplish this goal. As a result of all the hard work from many individuals, especially the task force, we've accomplished our goal, and it's going to provide for generations to come.
Thank you very much, Jane, and really to the whole McMahon family. And I know Tom is sorry that he couldn't be here tonight, but Jane, you're absolutely right. His leadership, the leadership, and the real ownership of everyone on this task force really made this happen. And again, thank you very much for that. And before I introduce our last speaker, which will be Dan Sullivan representing Cambridge Investment Resources, I also want to draw one other fact that we haven't spoken about specifically, is that the total project, and I'm looking over at Mike because he can correct me if I get my point wrong, but I believe it was between the pool and the gym was $9.6 million. So $3 million came from bonding approved by taxpayers, $1 million from the CAT grant. So you can see that $5.6 million was given privately towards this project, the lion's share of the two projects. Again, something to be very proud of as a community, and the leadership that was taken by Cambridge Investment Resources was something that was very inspiring to all of us and to all of the other donors. So at this time, I'd like to thank and also invite Dan Sullivan for some remarks on behalf of Cambridge. Thanks.
Well, I think it has been a long time and a long process relative to this. And I guess I can say first, it's my honor to be up here to represent all of Cambridge. This is not just a Cambridge, it's a community event. And I think I'm going to repeat, as you're the last speaker, there's always a lot of repetition of the great ideas that we all had in the vision that we saw in the opportunity here. So I remember the visit with Dan and Ron out to Cambridge. I was part of that team that was there. And when they pitched us on the idea of naming rights with $1 million, you know, the interesting thing is there was about 18 people that are on our senior executive team, some of which are here today. We often don't always come to the same conclusion simultaneously. I can guarantee you that. This is probably the once and only time that after they left, I think it only took us about 10 minutes to all agree that this was a worthy cause for the community. And we made a decision, but on all different reasons. But they all centered back to what I think was referred to as the quality of life of the community. Now, when Cambridge recruits, and you heard we obviously have been hiring a variety of people from all over the place, they come and they look at Cambridge as a place of employment, but they're even more critical about the community they live in. And that, I think, is what these types of things really add to that attraction, and it's not any one of them. They ask questions about education, about arts and entertainment, about activity places that's similar to this, and how does that energy happen? And that's the other word. It's not just having these, it's the energy, as you already can see, that these places bring. And if you've ever been to a football game on Friday night, you've been downtown at Art Walk, all those things, not just having them, but it's the energy that the community brings. And that's what people want to be part of. And I think that's what committed Cambridge so much to kind of continue to support it, not just for our reasons, but for the community. And it's the community that makes it. It's not Cambridge. We have about 6 people here today, as opposed to the 100 we probably have in the room. We are part of the community and hope to be a good citizen in the community as we continue forward as well. The other thing I think that we want to recognize relative to this is that it is for, I think, as Dan mentioned, all ages. And I think that's what also motivated us to get behind this. Because at Cambridge we have families, we have younger generations, we have, let's say, older generations that are part of that group out there. And really, this was a facility that I think will deliver to all ages, from the youth to the seniors using the walking track. I can guarantee you that that is one of the amenities, that trail that you have here, is when you can see spring, I've been out on it a few times now, it's packed. You get out and you're walking, and it's everybody from pushing their baby carriages to walking with their dogs to people my age. I have to probably stop jogging to speed up sometimes, but nonetheless, you enjoy the opportunity to get out and enjoy those amenities of the community. And I think that's really the whole message that I was trying to bring here, that this is for all ages, from young to old. It's for the entire community and the quality of life that this community brings. And that's what will sustain us being able to continue to grow and stay, not just Cambridge, but there's many other employers in this region as well. And as Dan mentioned, this will bring attention to the community, and that's where I want to kind of just wrap up quickly. I had small notes, so I can be quick with them. But I think that's what you have, the pride in these things. You know, when you talk about Fairfield, you talk about the area, it's the pride you have when you say things. And when you have that confidence and pride, everybody experiences that. And I hope that's what everybody experiences for generations to come, the pride of what happened today, but what's already happened for many of the other things that have been added to the community over the last decade since I've been here. So thanks for everybody that donated, and appreciate it.
Thank you for your remarks, Dan. That concludes our opening ceremony. We hope everyone will get out on the track and into the courts and enjoy the facility and promote it and get everyone out here in the community to enjoy this beautiful facility. Again, thank you to all of our guests in the architectural construction fields who were a big part of our whole process and certainly in constructing this building. Thank you all, and Fairfield, enjoy this for many generations to come.